All right, now let's do a quick recap. You now know what administrative tasks to do prior to your first session. You know to look at the client info sheet, you know to debrief with the parent or supervisor. You now know what the client info sheet entails, what reinforcers the child you'll be working with, what behaviors you have to work with, as well as what goals to run. Now you know how to run a preference assessment. You also know how to pair yourself and to build that rapport. The next step is taking data using the device on your iPad called Catalyst. It's an app that we are going to go into right now. And at the very end, you'll also create what we call SOAP notes, which is your session notes. So what is Catalyst? Catalyst is a platform designed to collect a wide variety of both skill acquisition as well as behavior reduction data. And basically, you're collecting this information onto your iPad, which will be provided to you. Under each profile, the client that you're working with will have its own profile using the first two letters of their first name and the first two letters of their last name. So for instance, John Doe would be Joe Doe, J-O-D-O. So we'll take a moment to show you how to look and search for this individual or learner on your iPad. Once you locate them, you'll be able to add that onto your iPad and you'll be able to review what the goals are as well as the behaviors. Additionally, this is also the platform where you'll find the client info sheet. And then lastly, using your iPad, there's also a section called SOAP Notes, which entails the sessions, basically the goals that you ran, as well as what behaviors were observed and collected as far as data collection. It's important that you are taking data throughout session because this is a way for us to measure if the learner is actually doing well or if they need to continue working on this target. It's so important that you're taking data on a consistent basis. And not only are you taking data, but you're consistently running the goal as it should be ran. And we'll go into that in the next part of this training. Lastly, with SOAP notes, it's important to also collect your SOAP notes because if you don't collect your SOAP notes, it's technically session never was ran. And so it's very important. It's a permanent product that you did in fact have session that day. So first two things is to collect data on Catalyst and then follow it by ending your session with your session notes. Very, very important that you're running these two things. Data collection is the prime example of if our treatment is in fact working or not working for our clients. Also, SOAP notes are read not just by the supervisors, but they're read by the parents. So it's also very important that you're including that information on a day-to-day basis when you're holding session. The next slide here shows you an example of what a SOAP note entry looks like. So basically, it gives you the date, the start and end time, as well as those in present, the location, the staff name, which is yourself, as well as your position, which is BT or RBT. Then I'll go into what goals you ran, as well as what proactive and reactive strategies were conducted. And then lastly, what goals you plan to work on the next session. It's very important that you include every part of the SOAP note. If you leave anything blank, this can cause the data to be skewed, as well as omitting data would really affect the individual's treatment plan. And then last but not least, Catalyst will also populate the percentages of the behaviors observed as well as the targets. A few things you want to look at are the do's and don'ts for SOAP notes. Do use autocorrect, punctuation, and grammar. Don't misspell forget periods, or use abbreviations or emojis. This is a permanent product and it's medical document, so you want to be as professional and concise as possible. Also, do use objective and observable events. So please try your best not to include emotions, thoughts, assumptions, such as, we think the child is sad. So you want to stay away from that. Instead, use words as, the child seemed unmotivated to work for XYZ. Also, do be clinical. Don't write about things that do not pertain to the goals or the behaviors of the individual. Do write at least 5 sentences. Don't write over 10 sentences. So you want to make sure that your SOAP notes is not too short and leaves out details, but also not too long, like you're writing a novel. You want to get to the point, observable, concise, and accurate. Another example would be what not to say. For example, BT should not include session materials. Session time was switched, canceled, or ended early. You want to refrain from that information because it doesn't provide facts to the session. Also, client got hurt during session. So you want to also refrain from those as well. That's another story. In that case, you would write an incident report. Right now, you're only writing what you've observed that's pertaining to the goals and the behaviors of the child. Don't speak about other clients. So you don't want to talk about the peer that the child worked with. You also don't want to vent about your session, about things other than session. Now let's have a quick quiz.